I'm setting up. Once I start the show, we'll have you go mute and turn the camera
Sure.
off while I set it up, and then take a brief pause. I'm setting up. Once I start hold the on, sir. Here show, comes. Why does that sound like that? Hold on, sir.
I'm
Turn
hearing
the
two audio streams at the moment.
Okay, so that's why. Okay, all right. The good news is it's on YouTube now,
Hmm?
so people can tune in. Usually do. So they can enjoy the show with us. Let me see if I can get this camera a little straighter. I got all kinds of makeshift stuff going today since I don't normally record. I'm in my wife's studio,
Uh-huh.
my house. Um, so let's see here. I'm going to put this up on the Facebook for people to watch as well. So yeah, so I'll set up the show, do some reading, share a few things, invite you on. We'll have a chat, and then have a good time, inspire some folks, and that will be that.
Works for me.
Just a moment. I'm going to ask you, if you will, to say us a prayer to bless this occasion. But let me just get everything dialed in here.
Hmm.
Okay, that's working. Um, I'm going to share this. Okay, that is working. What's going on here? Okay, we're seeing that. Okay, there's a slight. Okay, I don't want to keep watching myself there. What do I need to have up? Okay. Okay, that's working. Um, where's my videos? Okay, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna add the description. Shoot, almost adding the description.
Are you setting up your feed?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
It's just like a few extra steps now that we're live streaming, which is amazing on YouTube. So people can enjoy in real time what's happening. Reset this. Okay. All right. And welcome everyone that's patiently joining us on YouTube. I appreciate y'all being here. We really do. It's not really a full show unless you guys are with us. I want to say that. All right, I'm going to start recording so that I can send the audio to Jeff Comfort still, since he's still our man.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind praying us in, and then you can turn off your camera and your mic, and I'll start the show officially for the audio.
And we open our minds and our hearts to be clear channels of love, wisdom, understanding, faith, and strength as we speak to whoever listens today or at any time in the future. We recognize oneness in the allness of God between ourselves and between all who listen to this broadcast. We pray, affirming that the words said today, that the energy that is broadcast is healing, uplifting, and inspiring, that new ideas are generated, that people are blessed. And we do this in the name and through the power of the indwelling divine presence. Amen.
Amen. All right. And with that, we will officially start the show. So, everybody, welcome to Funniest Thing, where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes. I'm Ed. Darrell is taking some needed rest today, but he is well and only getting better. So I look forward to having him back next week. Well, I'm broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Santa Monica, my wife's creative studio here, iTink Studios in my home. So I really want to welcome you into this space. It's amazing to have you. It's amazing to be able to do the show. It's amazing that we have people that can tune in through YouTube live and enjoy what's going on. It's awesome. It's such a gift for me to be able to do this, for Darrell and I to be able to do this. And today we have a great show called Choose Your Own Adventure, How to Live Affluently with Reverend Tom Thorpe. The affluent life is simple to attain once we discover that we can choose the good. When we choose to focus on the good, we can feel the whole power of the universe behind us. This is how we experience affluence as a way of life. Affluence means we're in the flow, in harmony with God's purpose for our life. Discipline means choosing moment by moment to stay on the beam with our greater good. While we're busy taking care of God's business, He's busy taking care of ours, and we can boldly proclaim, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want." On this episode, with Darrell taking a much-needed rest, Ed, that's me, discusses how affluent living is the result of choosing a generous attitude and loving behavior. And during the second segment, Unity Minister, one of the inspirations for our show, the tender-hearted Tom Thorpe, gets us motivated to choose the good life with today's reading from Joyce Kramer, Every Day's Christmas. Yes it is. Every day is Christmas. That's what the beauty of living by these principles is, that every day we can tap into this generous flow, the generous spirit of every day being a holy day, which is what holiday really means. So every day is holy. So I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon subscribers for supporting us, supporting the show, supporting the ministry, getting the word out. It's so fun to have people on board. It's so fun. Every Tuesday we do a prosperity Zoom, which people are enjoying. We get so much out of it. Because like I said, every day is Christmas. Every day is a holy day. Every day we get to choose our own adventure and choose where we're going to put our focus. How are we going to approach life? What are we going to bring into this dynamic, creative universe that we have the gift of being a part of? And so this week, Katie jumped on board. Katie Herlevick said, "Dear Darrell and Ed, I could tell you how much you have meant to me. I cannot tell you how much you have meant to me to cheer me up every day since the beginning of Unity.fm. Thank you so much for your humor, your kindness, and generosity. I'm 76, live near San Francisco. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making my days better. Merry Christmas and happy 2025. Well, thank you very much, Katie. We appreciate that. Appreciate hearing from you. If you want to send us anything, I have some Kirky postcards. Maybe I can get them at the break and read one of them. I left them somewhere back in my meditation and reading little nook. So, but we love you, Kirky. Thank you so much for being part of our lives and part of the show. And if you want to send us anything, which we love receiving things in our P.O. Box. P.O. Box, funniest thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. And so the original title, so this is amazing. The original title of the show was How to Live Affluently. And so Darrell's been under the weather. He's been recovering. So there was just like a lack of clarity about what this week's show was going to look like. Would he be participating or not? And so yesterday, Reverend Tom Thorpe had reached out, wondering where the link was and the description, which typically we get done Tuesday or Wednesday and get it out to our guests, and the show starts building momentum. But I knew Darrell was, not sure yet, but part of me was getting nervous, especially after I saw Reverend Tom's email asking for the information. So yesterday morning, which was Friday, I was sitting in my car at school because my typical school day, I do my morning routine at home. I get myself over to school. I greet all my students. I check in on a bunch of people. I get some things started. And then I have a little bit of prep time and before my first actual teaching of a group of students at 9:30. So during that time, I go in my car and I listen to some affirmations and I meditate and I just do like another reset of my brain. I choose what kind of day I'm going to have by tuning into higher vibratory thoughts. This is something I've really been practicing lately, is when I'm not feeling in the flow, which is what affluence means. If I'm not feeling in the flow, it's because the thoughts that I'm thinking are not in harmony with God, with life, with the greater sense of who I am and what I'm here to do. So this is like the step that I've been taking lately, or getting more clarity on it. It's like I have been learning to say, okay, I need to choose thoughts that are outside of all of these thoughts that I'm thinking right now, because thoughts vibrate and they attract each other. And so when we're vibrating in a certain place, it can feel like the whole world is vibrating at that place. It can seem like everything's going bad. If we get into this doubtful state of mind, or if I get into a fearful or lack, if I'm believing in lack, this is what our subconscious mind does. Once that belief gets in there, it starts projecting it out everywhere. So I'm learning with my conscious mind, in great thanks to The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker, which I read again this year with some people. And I'm learning that it's my job to choose. So our subconscious mind has been programmed, so to speak. We've given it these beliefs and we've taken in beliefs from around us, and it sort of just keeps perpetuating those programs, and it's got power and emotion, and it creates scenarios and relationships and conditions that mirror what we're imagining and mirror what we're thinking about with emotion. So here's the great news, is that with our conscious mind, which is the part of me that's present and is speaking to you right now, I can, through affirmative prayer and like reading these principles, I can retrain that subconscious mind. I can develop new beliefs that are more in alignment with the good that we all desire. Because I got news for you. Every desire is a very good thing. You're never going to get away from it. It is an evolving and expanding universe, and you are here for a divine purpose. You are here to choose. So when I was doing when I went to my car to do my affirmation, I call it like a napitation. I kind of get into like a nice, relaxed, half awake state, and I listen to the affirmations. I make affirmation anytime I come up with something I want to affirm. Say there's someone I hear about that's going through something in the physical plane, their illness or something. I write, so and so is happy, whatever it is. Someone who I heard about, a parent, one of my friend's parents who has been moving through like dementia and that type of thing. So I put his name down and affirm that he is clear-minded and joyful. And I type all of those into a note. If you're on YouTube, you can see on my iPhone here. I open up a note, I write the affirmation, and at the top it says, these are some of the things I am receiving, which the law of ever-increasing good is constantly delivering to me in delightful, fun, surprising, easy ways. The first one I have is, I know my wholeness, and I bring my wholeness to all my affairs. So what I do is I select all, and press speak. I lay down or I sit in my car, maybe put the seat back. I relax my mind. I'll even put on some oming music. This is amazing tech. Oming music on the music app, and then the phone is reading to me all these affirmations, which it's a lengthy list at this point because I've been going for a while. And as I do that, it's cleansing my mind. It's giving me access to new thoughts that are more in alignment with that thing we all desire, that feeling of joy and expansion and innocence and wholeness. So as I was doing that, like part of me yesterday was worried, like, how's this show? How are we going to do the show? Are we going to have a description? So after that, I said, you know what? I'm not going to bug Darrell. It's early. He knows what's going on and he's going to take care of this. And so I blessed it. And at the same time, I made a few notes on my phone about like what I could talk about. And I had this idea, choose your own adventure, about the power of choice and how developing my own, like lately, I've just been practicing choosing new thoughts that are more in alignment with who I truly am, with the principle that God is only good. There is no sin. It's self-imposed nonsense. As we learned that from David McClure. I know Eric Butterworth had a similar thing. So, I mean, this is like an adventure, man. Retraining myself to really look at life through the lens that there is only good, there is only God. To hold, I've been affirming that I hold no ledger of sin against myself or anyone else. That's the real litmus test. So I was doing that, cleansing my mind. I wrote down some notes, and at that, I got out of my car, walking to my classroom, boom. That very moment, Darrell sent his own description for the show, which is a majority of what I read to you. And I thought maybe Darrell was going to be on the show today. So, but then I think last night he said he didn't think that he was feeling it. So I said, I totally understand. And so I realized, wait, I had this other title, which was Choose Your Own Adventure. And I'm the one who's captaining the ship today. And so I was driving home after surfing this morning, which was amazing and beautiful. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'll just go with the title, Choose Your Own Adventure. And at that very moment, I was listening to another podcast, and the guy on the podcast goes, well, you know, it is Choose Your Own Adventure. And I was like, all right, universe, I get it. We're choosing because we choose our own adventure. It's so true. It's so true. I've been reading so many good books. One of the great books I've been reading is The Science of Successful Living, Raymond Charles Barker. And it's called Your Spiritual Formula for a Joyous Life, which that sounds pretty good to me. So he says, all life responds to recognition. The recognition of God as the center of your thinking and feeling causes extra power to act through you, to act in you. The sages noticed that when they affirmed life, there was a response of increased life. Holding a resentment is a contracting experience. In the midst of it, begin to affirm the action of love and understanding, and these will cause a response. What you recognize happens in your experience. The recognition of good in the midst of evil causes good to predominate over evil. Love will always conquer resentment, provided you determinedly recognize love in the persons you resent. They may never know that you're doing this, but it will clear you of the vicious feeling, and that is all that needs to be done. What happens to the other person is none of your business. Your business is to make certain which moods, feelings, and impulses are dominating your consciousness. The thoughts and feelings of the other person have no power in you, but your own thinking and feeling does. And the reason I read that is I've been doing a lot of cleansing my mind of resentment. Because I think it was Emma Curtis Hopkins I was reading in the book, The Scientific Christian Mental Practices, which I've been slowly making my way through, which I love, and you know this. I think it was her that was just saying that if I'm holding anything against anyone, it just crushes, it kills my prayers. It kills the efficacy of my prayers. It kills the power in my prayers. I mean, I've read that in Emma Curtis Hopkins and several other authors recently, and I was just, it just hit me that that's the case. And I was moving through something like physically not feeling 100%, and it seemed like it was going to hang on. So I just started, but I put 100% of my energy and focus into practicing the belief and the knowing that my health comes from God. Same thing goes for money. Like we can read it and it feels good. But the rubber hits the road when I get into my study back there. I wish I could show it to you. I wish you could all come into my house, hang out in Santa Monica with me right now. It's a beautiful day. I'm so blessed. And I can't say it enough. I am so blessed. Because one of the things that's been resonating in my mind this week is rejoice always. Think about that. That's the prescription. Our subconscious mind might be saying, judge that person, or I'm not good enough, or there's not enough. But as a conscious being, the prescription that Jesus put out there, and many teachers put out there, is rejoice always. It turns out when we rejoice in the good, when we choose to shift to the good, we get results. I'm still like subtle, like finding what seemed like subtle ways that I was waiting for things to change before I rejoiced. The message is rejoice always, and things become plastic to our thinking. Things change. So rejoice first and foremost. I'm trying to find the reading. Okay, I think it was in this book, Miracle Power for Infinite Riches by Joseph Murphy. I've invited all these teachers to spiritually join us on the show today because, I really enjoy bouncing ideas off of Darrell. Right now I'm sitting in a house. I'm feeling out for your presence. I got Tom Thorpe coming in from Missouri. But I just bless all these authors and teachers to help guide me because I know they're excited to do just that. So this is what I found. This goes very well with the show. Joseph Murphy said, "Some say, I will let God choose for me. When you say that, you mean a God outside of yourself. God, or the living spirit, is omnipresent and is also within you, the very life of you. The only way God, or infinite intelligence, will work for you is through you. In order for the universal to act on the individual plane, it must become the individual. That's you. That's me. We are here to choose. We have volition and initiative. This is why we are individuals. Accept our divinity and our responsibility and choose for ourselves. Make decisions for ourselves. The other person or your relative does not know best." And I don't know about you, but you probably know someone that you may not want to admit it, but your mind overrules what you know and puts it out looking to someone else. But they don't know best for you. When you refuse to choose for yourself, you are actually rejecting your divinity and your divine prerogatives, and you are thinking from the standpoint of a slave, a serf, or an underling. If you could take that in and realize that you're not a slave, you were not put here to be a slave, a serf, or an underling. Because when we serve God within, we're truly serving our highest self. We're free. This is the truth that sets us free. And I got to tell you about another great book, Magnificent Decision by James A. Decker. He says, we want to make it fun to choose. Like fun, joy, and fun are the things that we get to choose now that we are stepping out boldly and choosing to be spiritually mature people. That's what's amazing. We become like children so we can enter the kingdom because now we get to choose the fun and the joy that's in our heart that we've always desired, because when we do this, we have more to give. James A. Decker said, "Yes, you can reach and grasp and claim for your own whatever you need and want. Do not be afraid to begin. Do not hesitate to reach boldly and confidently, and do not worry about overreaching or asking for too much." I know there's someone out there listening. This is just for you. You cannot ask for or seek too much good. Whatever good thing your mind can conceive, you can achieve. You deserve whatever you can desire. God withholds nothing. There is plenty for all. Here's a quote: "From the invisible currents of the inner ether, love will draw to man all that belongs to him, and all belongs to him that is required to make him happy and contented." Imagine making sure you're happy when you're making decisions. I just wrote a column for the local newspaper about this called Tapping into Genius. I write it every week for Culver City. And I always just write about whatever I'm focusing on. Imagine your life if you always include your joy and your happiness in the decisions you're making. Sometimes it's just out of the choices I have, which one will bring me the most joy, or how can I bring the joy to the decisions I have to make? How can I bring the joy to the choices that I have to make? And when I was texting with Darrell today, and he was saying that he needed to, rest, and so. I'm a human, and we mess with each other, and but I was sitting there, I was like, I just want to bless him. I want him to feel good. I want to know that his wholeness. What's it called? Emma Curtis Hopkins just reminds me, I am not going to consent to anyone's illness. I'm not going to argue with them or judge them. I'm just going to know their wholeness. That's my job, and I was doing that. And then I texted him, as long as you're choosing loving thoughts, you are making the right decision. And that is so amazing. Loving thoughts toward ourselves, our world, and others. When we're thinking loving thoughts, There's like this autocorrect that happens from God. God will send us the right words that will open doors for our good, the right doors, delays, the right unexpected encounters. God, Matthew 6:33 said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God," which I like from Emma Curtis Hoff, is the kingdom of good, and the righteousness, which means, and his righteousness, which means right uses of your thoughts and your faculties. And all of these things shall be added unto you. So prioritize seeking the kingdom. Jesus said in John 14:10, this came to me earlier too. This is a little bit of paraphrasing, but it says basically like the words I say, I don't speak them from myself. It's not I. And I was thinking the body, it's not this body you're seeing. He says, it's my Father in heaven who dwelleth in me, who does the work. That's the key to it. It's this power within us that does the work. And when we can tap into that, do your morning routine. We can all tap into it. We can tap into it at every moment. Do a morning routine with meditation, affirmative prayer, inspired reading that we talk about. When we tap into that and recognize that the Father within is doing the work, we naturally become generous, because one of the things that the description talks about is giving, and about when we choose the good life for ourselves and when I choose to recognize how good my life is, my inner cup literally overflows, and I have joy to share with others. I have inspired ideas. I have compliments. I have a patient attitude. I'll let people in traffic. I'll open doors for people. I'll take the time to listen to people. There's no better way to live in my estimation. I mean, lately in my morning routine, one of the new things that I do, and then we'll do our breaths, and then we'll get Tom Thorpe in, is I don't wrestle with my subconscious like I used to. I don't wrestle with those old thought patterns. As I sit down, I affirm, this is going to be easy. This is really easy. Whatever that pattern is, it's shifting easy. It's not based in truth. It is evaporating easily. There's something about that our subconscious mind is like a child. It's listening. If we get scared and we make these things hard, we're likely going to find out that it's very challenging. But if we tell our subconscious mind, because Reverend Ike said when we pray, we're not praying to God, because God is already, by principle, unending good, ever expanding good. We're praying actually to ourselves to remind ourselves what is real. So when I have the audacity to tell my subconscious mind, you know what? That's easy. This whole thing's easy. Letting go of that pattern, it's already done. When I think of someone that might bring up resentment, I just say, I don't even know who that person is. Because that resentful idea of a person is not real. So I affirm, I use denial and affirmation. I don't even know, and this is to myself, I don't even know who that person is, whether it's a politician or a close friend, anyone. If my mind and my subconscious starts conjuring up some resentful image, I tell myself, I don't even know who that is. And then that opens me up to, well, who are they? They are an expression of God, just as I am. And what I claim for them, I claim for myself. All right. So, let it be easy. Let it be easy. That's what I'm talking about. So, and believe me, this is simple, but it's, paradoxically, when our subconscious mind has for a long time believed that things are hard, or believed that sickness is here to stay, or believe that how can we possibly have more money, or how can we possibly live that life we want to live? It takes audacity, it takes courage, it takes self-determination to affirm that I don't even know those thoughts, they don't pertain to me. I don't even know who that is that those thoughts are about, because I am a child of God. I can choose to think new thoughts. I can choose to think about the amazing world I live in where there's elephants and giraffes and dolphins. I can choose to imagine my friends having their dreams coming true, their desires coming true, recognizing that there's only one power. It's in me, it's in them, and it is working now. This stuff works. The prayer power of unquestioning faith and lighthearted prayers where we let it be easy. Man, the results that I've been experiencing and witnessing from the prayers that I've been putting out has been phenomenal. So if you need any prayers, let us know. So when you're feeling caught, you can choose new thoughts. If you're feeling caught, we all feel that way sometimes. You can choose new thoughts so we can affirm that. Let's take a deep breath. When I'm feeling caught, I can choose new thoughts. When I'm feeling caught, I can choose new thoughts. When I'm feeling caught, I can choose new thoughts. Wow. I just realized one thing, that I have been using the microphone in my computer the whole time. When we come back from the break, I'm going to update my sound. Hopefully you can live with the quality that you've gotten so far. Thank you for listening. Coming up next, we have Unity Minister, tender-hearted Tom Thorpe, getting us motivated to choose the good life with today's reading. Every day is Christmas. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. I'm Ed, live from iTink Studios in beautiful downtown Santa Monica. All right. Tommy?
I'm here.
Great. Hold on. I'm just going to switch over to this mic. Okay. I'll make sure it's fired up. That's so funny.
Sound quality is better now, but it was quite acceptable before.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's what happens when you got all these bells and whistles.
Mhm. It also happens when you're your own engineer.
Exactly.
So you're still working with Jeff. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. You want to turn your camera on, buddy?
Sure.
Yeah.
How is Jeff doing?
Jeff is doing great, man. I mean, yeah, Jeff is doing great. It's such a pleasure to continue to work with him. As you know, such a great person.
Yeah, uh, he was so essential to Unity Online Radio.
100%. Yep.
I was just thinking about how all of that started for me 14 years ago. It's
Mhm.
amazing how time just passes.
Isn't that incredible? Let me grab one thing and then we'll get
Sure.
started.
All right.
Let's see here. Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right, everybody. Hold on one moment. Welcome back to Funniest Thing. I'm Ed. I mentioned before, got some postcards from Kirky out in Germany. And on the front, he has a picture of Snoopy. He made the art himself. It says, Snoop Conscious wins again. And he says, I had the quote from this. He gave us a bunch of amazing postcards. He says, healing is not creating a perfect idea or a perfect body. It is revealing an idea that is already perfect. Sounds pretty good to me. Reverend Tom Thorpe, what do you think about all this, man? How are you?
Well, I am fine today, Ed, and I'm blessing Darrell, knowing that he is the ever renewing, ever unfolding expression of infinite life. And you guys always inspire me. I always feel lifted up whenever I listen to you. And thanks for asking me to be with you today.
Oh man, we were more than delighted when Darrell got the inspired idea to reach out, and then you said yes. We
Hmm.
were ecstatic, man. So,
Well, that's one of the things that I've learned well, it's been a while, my whole life. There is a tremendous power in yes,
mm,
you know. As a matter of fact, I use it in prayer and I encourage other people to use it in prayer. I ask myself, what am I saying yes to? And if I'm saying yes to resentment or thoughts of lack, or if I'm really reveling in being ill, we learn how to do that in elementary school when there's
right.
a spelling test that we don't want to take. So what am I saying yes to? And if I'm saying yes to things that are just dragging me down, just take back that yes and reinvest it.
That's right.
So you guys say yes, and I don't like that expression, you guys, but both of you say yes to positive, uplifting things, and you radiate a joy that is infectious and contagious. And I thank you for that. I'm always happy to know that you're doing your thing in the world. I am.
That's amazing. I love this as a tool. That's such like we love whenever we find simple tools to kind of anchor us in these divine truths. And you're hitting on it when it simplifies, but what am I saying yes to? That's something we can all ask ourselves. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what I've been going on about in the first segment is I've been using that with more vigilance, which simply means to stay awake to my thinking and really being honest with myself about what am I saying yes to. That's great. Um, so what do you think about, we sent you the description yesterday about the affluent life and
Hmm.
what's your what would you call an affluent life for Tom Thorpe? What does that mean to you?
An affluent life for me is being in the flow. Now,
Hmm.
you're a surfer. That's something I've always been fascinated by,
Hmm.
and also never tried. But when you're surfing, you are in the flow in a very physically exhilarating way.
Hmm.
But being in the flow can happen everywhere in life.
Hmm.
Being in the flow of my workday, for example. You know that feeling. You've had it yourself, and you've had days when you were not in the flow. Being in the flow of my life, just honoring my body, experiencing it, and doing the kinds of things that are necessary to keep it on course. As you get older, it that's more important than it ever was. You only get
Right.
one and you have to make it last. Um, so being in the flow is my idea of affluence. Eric Butterworth used to talk about affluenza, which is focusing too much on stuff and on acquiring.
Mm.
Myrtle Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said it beautifully, and she's not the only one who did, when she said that part of her credo was to enjoy without possessing.
Mm.
So that if I can enjoy today, whatever today brings, I am in the flow. And that to me is affluence, being in the flow. Sometimes somebody will say, I just feel so out of sync today. And that's a wonderful realization because it means once you've recognized what's going on, you can do something about it. You can stop, you can pause, and just allow that new energy to rise up that'll put you in the right direction. Have you ever been on a trip where you realized that you were going down the wrong highway and maybe you pulled over to the side of the road and berated yourself for a few minutes, and then maybe you just got on the right highway, and by the end of the day, all was well again? That to me is what a well-lived life is all about. Not expecting perfection, but being in the flow and remembering, like we read in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good, so every life experience offers some kind of a gift, even the lousy ones. If we have time later, you mentioned 1 Thessalonians 5:16, rejoice always. There are three short verses in a row that work well together in that Bible passage.
Would you
Did you
mind?
know Joyce
Oh, go ahead.
Kramer? Did you know Joyce Kramer?
No, our friend Sammy Smith was
Okay.
worked with her to create like basically like a daily word email
Hmm.
of her writings that which we sent to you, and so he worked very closely with her. So we got to know her through Sammy Smith, but we never actually met her.
Oh, Joyce was quite a person. She was a longtime Unity minister in Virginia Beach, Virginia, in Edgar Casey's front yard, and she had a lot of good things to say. And this is a beautiful piece.
You want to read the
Sure,
writings since
be
they came
happy
up?
to.
Yeah, and then I would love to hear about the Thessalonians portion as well after that.
Sure, absolutely. I love more and give more to keep the spirit of Christmas alive every day. A reading by Joyce Kramer. Why do you suppose people seem so much kinder during the weeks preceding Christmas? Even in bumper to bumper traffic, there seems to be more understanding and patience. Shoppers smile in passing, and there is a general atmosphere of friendliness and goodwill. What brings this about? Could we possibly keep it alive all year? Perhaps the magic of giving is the key. Christmas time is the season of giving, and we cannot give without losing most of our resentments, anger, and selfishness. In giving, we are focusing upon the happiness of another and how happy this makes us. Yes, we could keep this wonderful spirit alive throughout the year. Many do, but we must be prepared to give up condemnation, criticism, hostilities, and feelings of superiority. We must develop our qualities of patience and compassion. We must simply love more. Let us pray for an inner nudge if the spirit of Christmas begins to slip. With God's help, we can keep the sparkles and delight of Christmas alive 365 days a year. And the scripture verse accompanying this reading is from Proverbs chapter 8, verse 30. I was filled with delight day after day, rejoicing always in God's presence. And you, of course, use that beautiful verse, rejoice always. And I was thinking as you were talking about that, about what rejoicing always means. Doesn't mean it means different things to different people, but one thing it doesn't mean to me is being giddily happy, although I have no problem with that in moderation. It means knowing that right where I am, God is, and that all of the people that fill this world and I are one in God. We're not one with God, but we are all a part of what God is. Each one of us is God expressing God's self. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent just pondering that idea and letting it talk to me. It keeps talking and it always says good things. And
Mm,
sometimes my answer is, I don't know if I want to be one with, fill in the blank with the name of the person or group that I don't want to be one with. But the
right.
fact is that I am, and I can't change that. All I can change is how I respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. I love all of that. I get what you're saying about the. I'm just reflecting on what you say about the giddiness part and thinking about just my own experience with this joy because the re the way I'm feeling it, what you're saying and just experiencing lately is what matters most is what's going on the inside of me.
Hmm.
Like where that's where the true rejoicing is happening. And then if it's in the highest good for me to have an outburst of joy or whatever it is, I'm thinking like when I'm teaching or wherever, then that will come out naturally. And there are times where I'm louder and more boisterous, and
Yeah.
there's other times where that rejoicing always attitude allows me to just step back and be a silent blessing to everyone in the room. I'll tell you what it always does do for me is keeps me feeling alive and creative. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that has been recurring for me lately uh, um, in terms of affluence is I was reading The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and um, because he's using these principles specifically in the area of finance and career and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing he emphasizes is that the type of richness that he's describing, and which I resonates with me, is one on the creative plane, not on the competitive plane. The competitive plane is one of the illusion of lack, and that there's not enough to go around, and that we have to fight for this limited, already made amount. And I was thinking about that because I was thinking about how one of the traps of the competitive plane is that some people live on the competitive plane, and they might be consider themselves competitive because they're all about winning and, you know, boasting about the victory and like anything to win. But there's another side of the competitive plane, which is the belief that we're losing, that we're not good enough. Like, whether we see ourselves as the winner or the loser, it's still the competitive plane, because the truth is that we are divine beings, created whole and perfect, and with it we all have gifts to bring, and there is no competition. There is opportunity and doors that open for us as divinely blessed, divinely created expressions. So it's just so liberating for me because I love creativity. It's always been a huge part of everything I do. Like, even when I thought I wasn't being creative, this is why, like, as a singer, people were drawn to me in certain ways, because even when I thought I was singing like someone else, I didn't sound like them. Even when I think something is like someone else, it tends to come out very uniquely me, which is cool because I just have this like un unquenchable, although it is quenched. I can't say that, but I have a lot of interest in having a personal connection with the creation, the creative power of the universe. I got into music when I played in band when I was younger, but then there was a little gap, and then when I was 18, I started writing, and I started writing out of, I guess, necessity. It had to come out. There was like bottled up stuff, and I just now since then I've learned I love writing. It's just something that's like, but no one had to tell me. I just started writing, and then a friend of mine found a poem. He said, "Oh, why don't you should be in the front of a band?" And then he wrote a guitar part, and before I knew it, I was singing. But the thing that that alone was amazing because my life transformed in so many ways. I started to learn how I learn. I started to learn who I was. But the thing that I really learned was there's a creative power in me that knows things that my rational mind knows not of. All the lyrics I was writing, I didn't even know what they meant. They were just pouring out of me. I would learn what they meant later, and
Yeah.
something about that really informs everything I do. That each and all the students I work with, I like every person. I'm always listening for what's the creative power in you saying. I like, and having gone through the spiritual psychology master's program and training to listen to people intuitively and all that, it's like I'm always listening for, okay, so far you've talked about what other people think, or you've talked about this part of yourself as if it's not you, like, oh, well, there's a part of me that feels this way. It's like one of the things I learned is to say, well, why don't you give that part of you a voice instead of talking about it like it's not you? Let's give it a voice. And sometimes there's emotions and judgments and stuff, but what I find is that as we let that come to light, it will transform into a loving voice. It will transform because creativity can't be contained. It has to be experienced in real time, and it is born. And so for me, when you say that, like, that's why I love what you said about affluence being in the flow, because I'm a feeling person. I surf, I play music, even when I'm teaching, it's like a feeling. I can feel it even now. Like, I got to be honest, like it's more it's hard. It's been in the past more challenging when I'm doing the show myself, like you said, where I have to be the engineer to fully lock in. Like when I'm with Darrell, we got that locked in, and it's
Hmm.
easier to then let go. And like just now, I can feel it in my hands, like spirit. Okay, now I'm feeling affluence. Before, which is fine. Sometimes I go through the motions until I feel it, but I love
Right.
this. I love this flow, being in the flow, and we all know it, and we all feel it. And I do believe when our organs, my organs are healthier and happier when they're vibrating on that level of creativity and flow.
Absolutely. It can't be any other way. You're talking right now about one of the greatest spiritual practices that I know, which is giving permission.
Mm,
You give permission to your students to share their thoughts.
mm,
See, so often people are taught either directly or indirectly
yeah.
that what they have to say is of no value.
Mm,
The people who should be talking are people who know a lot more, have different experiences
mm,
than they do. But the truth is that everyone's thoughts are valuable. Everyone's thoughts, that is, if they're speaking their own thoughts and not merely parroting somebody else's. Because each one of us is part of an indescribable tapestry. If we weren't necessary to the divine plan, we wouldn't be here. So each one has something to say. As a matter of fact, it's my favorite Snoopy quote. Everyone brings something to the party. Now, a lot of people don't know what they've brought because they haven't been encouraged to discover it, like you and your music. That happened organically. It happened in a flow. And a lot of people on the way to finding their gift may have some experiences that they would call mistakes. I'd call them learning experiences,
mm,
things that help me point the way,
mm,
you know? So that's again Romans 8:28. It's everything working together for good, even though there are times when it doesn't feel like that's true.
yeah. Yes. You know, I'm glad you see. I was talking to someone this week, and they were talking about grief, and it was coming up, and I was talking about, or she was quoting something from Emma Curtis Hopkins about how tears don't. It said something to the effect like tears don't bring healing, like truth is what brings the healing, and I was just pondering all of that, right? And after reflecting on it, what I thought about is this, like the principle, knowing that the principle is ever increasing good, knowing that the principle what was the last Bible quote you just said? I just want to hear that again.
Romans 8:28
Yeah,
or
can you
one
read?
before that.
No, that one. Yeah, the Romans.
All things work together for good
Uh,
for, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what I want to say about that is this is all very personal. Like this is a personal. Our life is our lab approach, which is the principle for me is all things are working together for my good.
Hmm.
That's what I go back to. That but but it's okay, and it is more than okay. It's like the color in flowers. It's like the curves in the road, in design and sculpture. It's these moments where it doesn't look like it's okay, or it's not the thing you thought, or it's not those things when they're when I bring this awareness of principle of all things working together, it does heal it. It turns it into something beautiful. It turns it into a beautiful part of who I am and who you are. And so
Hmm.
there's just something about there's one part that's moving and experiencing, and it's um, physical and it's creative, and then there's another part that's principle, and it's like the yin and the yang, and those two things together make this dynamic experience of life for me. And both of them are equally important. I was just reading in Raymond Charles Barker, like he was just saying, like, and this is why I love metaphysicians. He was just saying, you don't need to go up to some mountains in the Himalayas or by yourself to do this, because if you're still going to be there, You're still going to meet yourself there. You can do this right here and right now. These principles will prove themselves no matter who you are, where you are. Like, and it's not even like the principle, his goal is to prove itself. It's the principle is like these principles are the living water that I drink that give me life to experience and enjoy everything as perfect. Like this week, I was affirming. There's something going on. I said, you know what? I just want to be in that place where I know that all is well. I'm tired of waiting to get to that place. So I affirmed I have the perfect parents, just to clear out any, what about this? Why did they? I was just like, I mean, I'm 50, which is kind of embarrassing to admit, but it's still, I was just like, I started affirming. I have the perfect parents and I love them dearly. I
Hmm.
don't know any, like, I hold no ledger of sin against myself or them or any, and I'm in the perfect car. I have the perfect house. I have the perfect wife. I have the perfect everything. The show is amazing. And it was like jump starting my heart. And all of a sudden, what started out as like, oh, I'm affirming something that'll make me feel better, all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is way more true than whatever stories I was telling. I do have the perfect parents. I do love them. I do have the perfect wife. I do love this car that I'm driving. I do love where I'm living. I love and it's just, that's the beauty of like clicking into this Christ consciousness.
Hmm.
It's like, it really is like the Buddha said, I'm awake. It's like waking up from this
Yep.
dream that I think that people feel like is just like a never ending wheel of life and death. And it's just, and tuning into the stillness, even while I'm going about my day teaching or surfing or laughing hysterically with you and Darrell, and which I'm
Yeah.
still seeing Darrell's wholeness. I know he's happy, and I can't wait to be with him again. So, but anyway,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah. You want to go look at First Thessalonians?
yes, that would be amazing.
All right, let's take a look. So you read verse 16, which says, rejoice always. Verse
Yeah, you know what? I
17,
didn't even know that was Thessalonians. I heard it recently, and then when I was meditating today, like it just came out again. Like, okay, I'd rejoice always. So I'm glad that. Tell me it again. Where's this coming from?
it's First Thessalonians. That's the oldest book of the New Testament, by the way.
Oh, uh-huh.
Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians. It was the
Okay.
one that was written at the earliest time, probably around the year 50 or maybe
Whoa.
before. All
Wow.
right. So verse 17 is three words: pray without ceasing. Now, that's one that I think should be the title of a book because I believe, as some do, that every thought is a prayer, and we need to be careful about what we're praying. Like earlier, I said, what are you saying yes to?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're saying yes to some pretty alarming things, and we can take back that yes. Anyway, let me finish the three. The 18 is a little longer. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. So those three verses:
Wow.
rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. Notice the preposition, it's in, not for. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't expect anybody to say, thank you,
Right.
God, I finally have cancer. No,
Right.
but if they do have cancer, thank you, God, I am alive. I can learn from this experience. I can grow through this experience. You see,
Yes.
it's not giving thanks for it, it's just giving thanks in it. And that's
Yes.
a huge difference.
Wow.
Yeah. So those three verses, uh, whenever somebody said, well, could you give us a little talk? Those things come to mind. You can build a message on them right away. And another that we don't have time to share, I don't think, but just write it down or somebody will remember it, is the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. That is a one sentence handbook for living. It really is. So
What is it?
anyway,
What's
hmm?
the sentence? Lay it
Well,
on us.
I can lay it on you, sure. It says, just a second. Here's the verse. He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God.
What are the three things?
Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. And notice that it says
Wow.
your God.
I
Each of
do.
us conceives of God in at least a slightly different way. And so many times I've heard people, and I've done it myself, although I hope I've stopped by now. I've heard people trying to convince others that their God needs to be the other person's God.
Right.
Well, that's not true. Your God awareness will always be at least slightly different from mine, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love number one, do justice, because you can think of it as like justice in the sense of like an eye for an eye or something like that, but I like it almost like in the more East Coast of the saying, do justice to who you are, man. Like you're a child of the
Hmm.
God. Do justice to the gifts you have. Like bring them out,
Exactly.
share them. And then
Exactly.
love kindness. That can't be understated either, because a lot of times we can dismiss that as if it's like a nicety. It is not.
Hmm.
Kindness, loving kindness. What kind of a day is better for me than when I'm loving kindness, man? I love everyone I meet, and it reflects it back to me like Raymond Charles Barker was saying. When we when we get to a state of recognition of kindness, then the kindness comes back to us, because it's now we're a vibrational match to it. Now my own eyes are open to it, and I can see what was there all along. And then walking humbly with your God, like you said, with my God, it tells us that it is an individual path that it
Hmm.
takes. I have to step out boldly. No one knows it. No one knows me more than me. No one, it's not possible. It's not no one's job to do that. And like you were saying, a lot of us were raised in situations where we might have been dismissed or whatever. We were given these like hierarchies. Oh, that person knows, and that person knows better. They get to. I learned when I first started learning to meditate from a psychologist when I was in college. Um, when my eyes started kind of opening, and I was Catholic, and I was already having these like spiritual awakenings, because things were going on. I've been praying my whole life, and suddenly lines from prayers would start to have meaning, like an inner
Hmm.
door meaning. The light
Right.
for the. I remember praying like the Nicene Creed or whatever, the profession of faith, and I remember in church praying, and the light for the world to come. Amen. And all of a sudden I got the most wonderful feeling inside. God is the light for the world to come. It's like lighting my way.
Hmm.
I'm not in this scary, chaotic, unknown, like God is lighting the way. So anyway, but as things started to open up to me in ways that I was still discovering and understanding, I started noticing like, me and my friends, we were all kind of like take turns bullying each other. Who was the right at this moment and who's going to shut up the other person. But I started learning to meditate, and I remember going, that guy that everyone writes off, a lot of times he's actually right.
Yep.
He's not the strongest or the loudest, and what he's saying sounds kind of quirky, but I think he's actually right. And that started to unravel my whole idea that the truth comes. It just made me think of like the stone that the builder refuses is like often the head cornerstone kind of idea, like the
Hmm.
thing, the least. God will bring us the thing that we least expect when we think we're an expert on life. God will bring the wisdom through anyone who
Yeah.
is willing
Yeah.
to be a channel, to be for my students with on the autism spectrum or with Down syndrome, or like to see that they in truth are whole and perfect as they are, vessels
Hmm.
for truth. And it may not sound like the way that like other people are being taught is the right way. It doesn't matter. God doesn't care about the right way. God just cares about a willingness and an openness. And when we create that openness, we do get to choose our own adventure. And that's what I love about this stuff. It's we all want to be on our own adventure. I believe we came here for that. We signed up. I can't wait to get down there and live this adventure. And we're finding our way back. Thank God for these teachers like Charles and Myrtle and Emma Curtis Hopkins and Emily Cady and Joseph Murphy and Raymond Charles Barker and Tom Thorpe and anyone who is just willing to give it a try and then felt compelled to just share, like, this is working for me. This works. Like, take it or
Yeah.
leave it, but this
Yeah.
works. You know,
Yeah.
my friend, let me just share one little thing. My friend sent me a podcast this week that one morning, my whole message to God was, I'm open. I know I'm open to the new thoughts. Like the same way music arrived for me, I'll do it like anything creative. I'm just like, just been realizing like, I got to find some more creative stuff to do. And my friend sent me this podcast, and it was called the Telepathy Tapes. And it's about how, there's a lot of research that shows that nonverbal people on the autism spectrum or autistic people have this telepathic ability to read. Basically, the way they describe it is hear what people are thinking. And
Really?
yeah, and they show it like there's I've only just begun listening, but my friend was telling me that and I saw something like there's evidence that like mom will sit in the other room and do a calculation on a calculator, and the kid solves it in the other room. And I've worked with this population for a long time, and I've always felt like I just always thought about it as reading energy. Like some of my students there will like that I've worked with, especially that are primarily nonverbal, like I feel like they're scanning an environment and they're getting all this information very quickly. And it's like if it doesn't feel good, they might like freak out or like just be like, no, that's not for me. Or like I've known that about them. And so earlier I was looking up something that maybe I could share a little bit on the show. And so I found this article about it, and it's from McGill University, and it's written by someone who's very cynical about it all. But what it dawned on me was, one, that type of knowing and that type of thing is what got me into this in the first place in 1997, when out of nowhere, all of a sudden I started getting drawn into working and being with young people with autism. And I've been on that journey ever since. It's totally unexpected. Similar to music, it just started happening, and I'm still here, and I love it. And so it reawakened that day I was wanting new thoughts, inspiring, it reawakened my creativity around what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, the article I found says, the Telepathy Tapes is a 7-hour podcast series that takes listeners on an incredible journey. Here is a summary of the show. Now tell me this doesn't sound at least a little bit like unity, silent unity. The idea that even if we're not together in time and space, we can all come together at the same time and pray these prayers like the original silent unity, that it doesn't matter where we are, that prayer works. He says, a journalist taps into a community of parents of nonverbal autistic kids and discovers that we all live in a simulation and that the real world is heaven. And these neurodivergent kids are actually gifted, and they can visit heaven at night, download infinite knowledge, and use telepathy to communicate. No one is ever really dead. And she says, and everything you have ever seen on the X-Files is real. Energy healing, psychokinesis, clairvoyance. These nonverbal geniuses, if we allow ourselves to believe in them, will usher in a revolution in both medicine and spirituality. All that last part aside, through these metaphysical teachings, I totally believe in downloading information that is beyond what I can know. I totally believe that spirit speaks through me and gives me information. I totally understand that heaven is here, right? Like that's what Jesus spoke of. It's here, and that I'm in the process of continually reawakening to everlasting life. That these people don't really die. I mean, I know that we experience, I'm not undermining like that. It's tough when people do leave their physical body and go through that death process. I'm not trying to downplay, but there is a reality, a broader understanding that we are eternal beings, and that, yeah. So it was just amazing that when I read that, there's something about like connecting the dots between what these nonverbal autistic people are experiencing, what we're studying. It's all consciousness. It's principle. If it's principle, it shows up everywhere, like God, omnipresent. And so I just thought that was very interesting.
But People tend to write off what they can't understand or what makes them uncomfortable.
Right.
And being around autistic people or people with autism, I shouldn't call them autistic people. Being around people with autism makes some people uncomfortable. There's no reason really why it should. For a long time, I have wondered if what we call autism might be a different kind of ability that we don't understand yet,
Yep.
and a kind of ability that makes it difficult for the individual to function with the requirements of the world today. So, how do we respond to it? Well, the first thing is to make sure that people living with autism are safe and are properly taken care of. But the second thing, and more important thing, is to encourage them to explore who they are and to the extent that they are willing to share it with us,
Yep.
because we can all learn from it.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine when the first Homo sapiens began to come along, their predecessors probably thought these are some unusual kind of folks, and we're not quite sure they're okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've, I mean, I have tons of experience with this. So what
And I
I've seen,
really appreciate that you do. Somebody with your enthusiasm, your energy, your insight, and your love is going to make a huge difference, not only to the students that you teach, but to their families and to everyone who comes in contact with them. I'll bet your kids love coming to school.
true,
Yeah.
true. Yep. And I had an experience, like, I'll tell you one experience I had with a little girl who was in middle school, and she would come to this lunch groups that I used to run to facilitate. For me, it was just to facilitate an inspiring place where kids could feel honored so that who they
Mhm.
really are could naturally emerge rather than me trying to like train them. Like a lot of times, kids with autism are trained like using the same techniques that you would train a dog or something, which is like basic conditioning, like say this and then we'll give you this reward and that so and that there's a lot of good that comes from that approach, like
Right.
teaching in that way. It's just because it makes it simplify when it's done with a loving heart, it simplifies the information and makes it easier to process. But there's another part, which is this: I work with this girl who is mostly nonverbal. I wouldn't force her to interact with the other kids at all. It was a very big room. It was like a band room with multiple level
Hmm.
like risers, and she
Right.
would always sit in the back. And very quickly, I found out she was an amazing artist. Her dad's a professional artist, and she wanted to draw. So I would just give her something, and then I was like, "Holy smokes, this girl can draw like really cool, good." And so then I started to show off her work, not like sincerely, just be like, dude, look at this works. This I forget, her name, but what she was doing, and so the miracle happened. I don't even know. It must have been a month, 2 months. I don't know. And so this is a person who was assumed doesn't know how to engage with her peers or doesn't have any interest in it, right? And or what have you, or can't, or is incapable, maybe.
Right.
So, but one day she taps me on the shoulder on the way out, and she says, "Mr. Beacon," and all of a sudden I mean, this, yeah, eye contact, like, like difficulty with eye contact is like she looks me in the eye and speaks, "Mr. B, can I tell you something?" And she's like, "I want to start making friends with some of these people. Can you help me?"
Oh.
And so we did. And I'm not going to say like she was just hanging out, like, oh, all of a sudden she's hanging out, wants to do everything. She didn't, but she started to make friends and she started to move over and sit because this is my theory is I don't like to teach people things they already know, but they're not presenting it because they feel overwhelmed or they feel they're not accessing it. Because when I was in credentialing program, there's something called an affective filter, which, and it's actually taken from language acquisition, which is like when we're learning. This is the way I remember it. If our anxiety is high, it cuts off our ability to access creative thought, like higher order thinking, the best of what we know, and we all know this when we're scared and vibrating on that level, we forget all
Mhm.
the good. Or if we're worried about a condition, whether it's
Yeah,
cancer, like
absolutely.
and that's why we have to practice rejoicing always. So, but what I like to try to do is create a space where what this person knows and who they really are can come out naturally, and then encourage them from a place of, this, you told it to me here, I'll help you. Like, all I want to help you do is bring that out even more over here. And I know it's not an easy environment for you, but let's see what we can do. But it's just a different approach, because within every person is a whole dynamic, amazingly creative, attached, a flow of the same genius that flows through every one of us. And yeah, so it's all connected. Everything that we practice here, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's all principle, man. It shows up everywhere. It's beautiful.
right. Yeah, that is a gorgeous story, and I'll bet you have many of them
Yep,
about
it,
people you've worked with.
it's true.
Y- Yeah, you've heard the word stupid a lot in your life, haven't you?
Yep.
Well, do you know what stupid really means when you get to it? Now, I'll tell you how I learned this, how it became important to me. You see, my name is Thorpe. My last name is Thorpe, and at Unity we have activities for Spanish-speaking people,
Mm.
and they pronounce things differently when they see a word than you would if it was in English. They'll see my name and they would pronounce it torpe.
Ah,
And
yes.
in Spanish, unfortunately, torpe means stupid. So they would always
Mm.
remember my name, and I used to tell the folks, "Me llamo Tom Thorpe, Thorpe y no torpe," and they'd remember that. They really would. But stupid doesn't mean ignorant. It doesn't mean uneducated. It doesn't mean of low intelligence. It just means not fully awake. And that's why we can say that a lot of the times we're stupid. Somebody will be stupid drunk or just plain stupid in that they were not focused, not there. And we can overcome stupidity just by paying attention and, well, responding in love. Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so we can overcome stupidity. Yeah, so
Thank God.
anyway,
And we
yeah,
can
and,
live
and yeah,
joyously and affluently.
affluently, absolutely, absolutely.
Um, all right. Before you go, is there anything else you want to let people know?
Um, if you look hard for it, you'll find a YouTube video that will be in today's Talks on Truth. It's about a 15-minute video in which I recount an experience and a series of Bible verses that came to me that when you put them together, created an interesting thought starter. It's been
Mm.
around for years, hasn't had a whole lot of views, but if anybody's looking for it, today's Talks on Truth number 3, and it's under the banner of Unity Worldwide Ministries. So. If they'd like to just hear a little bit more of Tom, I don't think any of my other stuff, is around on the web much. Well, with Unity in England, it is, but that's a whole other story that we won't get to today.
Yeah. And let's just say I've been talking to Jeff Comfort. We've been working on something related to that. We're trying to look into that. So we'll let you know if we find anything out about that. Because your show, oh man, that is spiritual food. Discovering Eric Butterworth, like, was really carried me through many, many, many times. So we really
You know,
appreciate
it,
it.
it, it was a wonderful surprise to me because it wasn't my idea. Um,
Uh-huh.
Eric Butterworth's ideas were going to be featured by Unity over a period of time, and Denise Blake, she contacted me and she said, "We really want to do a program on Unity Online Radio about Eric Butterworth. Would you be interested in hosting it?" And at first I said, "Let me think about that." And I came back and said yes. Um, and it ran for 3 years, and I had a wonderful time and learned more about Eric Butterworth than I had ever known. I felt like we became friends during those 3 years, and I recognized how many people were being helped.
Yeah.
It was a real joy. I don't have the recordings anymore. I know they exist somewhere, but
Yep.
uh,
Well, we're
yeah,
working on trying to get a hold of that as well because we really want that to be out there as well. And, as a result of that show, I've never really fully digested this until this moment. Like, there was a time where I would say Eric Butterworth was like my spiritual father. His voice, his teachings, like, they spoke to me. I was handed the book, Celebrate Yourself, during our first
hmm
visit to Unity Village. And it was just, there was something about it that was the perfect timing, the perfect voice, the perfect way of looking at that spoke so directly to me. So I appreciate it. I want to thank you for that because, yeah, it was a big part of my growth for a very long time. And
that's a wonderful introduction to Eric because the chapters are nice and short.
yeah,
They're very upbeat, not terribly complicated, but very powerful.
100%. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I have a little story from about Tom Thorpe. So apparently, in Independence, Missouri had four churches: Presbyterian, Methodist, Catholic, and Unity. All four had a serious problem with squirrels in the church. Each church, in its own fashion, had a meeting to deal with this problem. Presbyterians decided that it was predestined that squirrels be in the church. They would just have to live with them. The Methodists decided they should deal with the squirrels lovingly in the style of Charles Wesley. They humanely trapped them and released them in a park at the edge of town. Within 3 days, they were all back in the church. The Catholics tried to perform an exorcism to rid the church of squirrels, which of course did not work. Local Unity minister Tom Thorpe had the best solution. He told his board to vote the squirrels in as members, telling them, now we will only see them at Christmas and Easter.
I heard that one coming.
I knew you
I
did.
did.
You've been in the game a long time.
Yeah, yeah, 40 years.
Well, we have a little song here, and it goes like this. I found the original lyrics to a song by, I think it's the Everly Brothers. It goes, when I want good in my arms, when I want good, and all God's charms whenever I want good. All I have to do is dream. Dream, dream, dream. Visit darrellned.com to find easy links to everything we do. Hop on Patreon, support the cause. As always, thank you for being part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed and Tom Thorpe. When I feel blue in the night and I need good to hold me tight whenever I want good. All I have to do is dream. Dream, 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 dream. Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, you're very welcome. This was fun. I realized I didn't have a countdown clock, so I didn't know when the segment was going to be over.
I know I milked it, man. I didn't tell you because nowadays there's no real buffers other than so if you're cooking and you're not running out the door, we just let it roll. So thank you so much
Well,
for all that wisdom.
I had fun and I appreciate it. I haven't looked at your website in a while, I'll confess, but I'm going to again. You do a good work, Ed. You really do. It's an
Well, thank
important
you.
work. And the fact that it's lighthearted makes it more effective.
Well, that we appreciate. Darrell has a new book out. It is called The Secret Meanings in the Statue of Liberty. What is it? The name of the book? Let's see. But it's on Amazon. It's only like it's like 8.95. It's a short book. Let me show you it real quick before you go.
Sure.
It is called, appropriately so, it's called Step Out Boldly. Step Out Boldly, the hidden meaning of the Statue of Liberty by Darrell Fazaro. And he goes through all of the metaphysical symbols, and he added amazing artwork to each page. And then he just talks about what like the torch means and why is she's taking a step forward and she's not standing still, and the chains are being crushed
Oh,
under her
cool.
feet. It's a really great book. Once again, it's called Step Out Boldly: The Hidden Meaning of the Statue of Liberty, and it's a really quick read, but I keep it in my study there, and it gets me
Again,
really
I'll get it
inspired.
today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the Statue of Liberty is an important symbol to me because my mother's family were 20th century immigrants.
yeah.
One of the most beautiful evenings of my life was my grandmother telling me her story of her trip over and what it was like getting here and what
Oh
Ellis
wow.
Island was like. Yeah,
What year
she
was that?
1911.
My grandfather came in with his brothers in 1918.
Yeah, there was lots of immigration during that time because, well, the country needed people.
Hmm.
We don't recognize that we still do need people, but
Right.
you know how that is, and
Yep, I get it.
that's an issue that I don't want to discuss in a partisan way. But everybody's worth something, and
Yeah.
and
That is not partisan. That's just principle.
yeah, well, you know how people are on the whole immigration question.
No, I know. I definitely know what you're somewhat dancing around, which is totally respected. I just like to be clear that the fact that everyone is valuable is not partisan, it is principle.
Right. I hear that. I hear that. And we talk about competition, and competition is based sort of on the idea that life is a zero-sum game. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
Well, you've played Monopoly, right?
Yes.
Okay. In the game of Monopoly, at one point, somebody's got it all and everybody else has nothing.
Mm.
That's a
Right.
zero, that's a zero-sum game. Now, if you believe life is a zero-sum game, you're going to be
Mm.
competitive because that's essentially a belief in lack, and you've got to get yours before someone else steals it. But
Right.
what if you believe that life is not a zero-sum game, and this is provable, that the more we create, the more there is to be created?
Yes.
Okay? So, if in our creativity, if in our business enterprise, we are about providing the greatest good for the greatest number and cooperation wherever possible, just think how much more affluent we would all be. It's when I stop to
Yes.
think about it, it's
Yes.
shocking.
Yes.
It's shocking, and
Yes.
it's an idea that has to be introduced delicately.
Yes. I
Uh,
agree.
but life is not a zero-sum game, and you could say that this is a zero-sum universe. Because the amount of stuff and energy in the universe is the same now as it always was, but it's always moving around.
Yeah.
What we have not done is to begin to scratch the surface of what is available.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. I
We're
agree.
we're we're moving through stages.
Yep.
I love reading about the Industrial Revolution for one reason, because it was a combination of so much good and so many problems. The amount of pollution it created is nearly incredible,
Right.
but the way it advanced people's lives in terms of material comfort
Incredible.
is also incredible. So, how do you take what worked and find a way to mitigate what didn't work? Well, that's what,
Hmm.
when we get around to it, we're trying to do now.
Yeah.
So, what is it that we don't yet know? That's what really jazzes me.
Me
There's so
too.
many things that we haven't even thought of yet. Um,
Yes.
so many possibilities. And for our finite minds, those are endless.
Right.
Those are
That's right.
endless. So,
That's right.
so um, we can look at life as a constant problem or as a constant opportunity, and we can be right both ways. We can defend both positions.
Right.
And at my stage of the game, you'll get there someday. I have to recognize that my time here, well, nobody's time here is unlimited. There are going to be things happening on this planet that I can now foresee that I'm pretty sure I won't be a part of.
Right.
And I've had to deal with how I feel about that,
Mm,
you know?
right.
Uh, I buried one of my best friends 3 weeks ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
it happens at this age. For everything, there's a season. There's a
Yes.
time to pick the body up, and there's a time to lay it down. That does not mean that life is over. It
Right.
just means that you're not going to be, quote, here anymore. Um, and there's some grieving over that, but you also have to look at that in the sense that I'm really happy that, well, and my friend's name is Gary. I'm thrilled that Gary was here and that he was a part of all of our lives. I grieve that he's gone, but that grief is never going to be stronger than my gladness that he
Yeah,
was here, you know?
I do.
And that's the important thing. That's the balance. We're human and divine. We have
Yeah.
to honor that humanity.
Yep.
And if unity has a shadow side, it's that we don't always honor the humanity.
Right.
It's all right for somebody to be feeling down. It's
Yes.
all right to experience grief. It's all right to shed tears. I tell
Yep.
people tears are holy water, and there's only two times when tears are a problem. One of those is when you refuse to shed them, then they become toxic.
Mm.
And the other is when you create a dam and make a pool of tears and float around in it. That's when you are not living your life. You're doing something else, and I don't even know how to classify it. It
I get
isn't
it.
healthy. It isn't
Yeah,
healthy.
I hear you.
So it's you inspire me to reflect, to think, and to take another look about how I'm going to spend the rest of my day, all of those good things.
Well, there
And
you
I
go,
pray
man.
affirming that you will do that for an increasing number of people.
Well, thank you, sir. You're part of our
You
lineage here at Funniest Thing. We love you. Have a great day, and
and it's edanddarrell.com,
it's darrellanded.com.
darrellanded.com. All right.
All right, my friend.
Be well.
Thank you
Be
so
well.
much. God bless you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.